Hi, Phyllis here. I wanted to do a little video to tell a little story, maybe for my grandkids. I'm sure they've never heard this story. But anyway, they might find it interesting. Alright, we'll move the camera a little closer. Alright, there we go. Alright, it was 1952, maybe 53, Easter. And we were visiting my grandmother's from Virginia, and all the other uncles and aunts and grandkids were there also for Easter dinner. So I had two cousins. They lived on land just a little ways from my grandparents' home, and one of them was named Ernie and one was named Buddy. And they were about my same age. I think Ernie was maybe a year or so younger. But anyway, I was somewhat of a tomboy, and I enjoyed playing with them when we would visit my grandparents. We would, roam the land, go into the woods, plunder all in the barns and that kind of thing. And so anyway, it was Easter, and it was after church, and we were all there having a meal at my grandparents'. Now, the way they did things, they always let the grandkids eat first. They had a great big table in the kitchen, and all the grandkids would eat first, and then they would clear off the table, and then all the grown-ups would eat. Now, my mother had 7 brothers and 1 sister, and counting her, and then if you looked at all the wives and the husbands and all the grandkids, it was a whole house full of people. So anyway, we had finished eating the Easter dinner, and the kids were all through, and so Ernie and Buddy and myself went outside, and we were always looking for an adventure. So they were telling me about my grandmother's rooster, and they said this rooster would chase you. So we went out in the yard, and of course I had on my Easter dress and my little black patent leather shoes that had a little bow on the top, little white socks, and I was all dressed up. So I wasn't really into being a tomboy that day, because when I was dressed up, of course I acted real girly girl, but when I wasn't, I was a tomboy. So anyway, I went out to see what they were talking about. So sure enough, the rooster was out there along with all his hens. There were, I don't know, maybe 20 hens. So they were out there around the pear trees. So there weren't but 2 pear trees, but that's sort of the location where they were. And then there was a barn right beside that, and then beyond that there was a pasture with barbed wire fencing. And that's, of course, where the cow and the mules stayed. But anyway, so they were showing me how they could run at the rooster, and the rooster would chase them. So I thought that was pretty funny, and so they did it 2 or 3 times, and sure enough, the rooster would chase them for a little ways. So I'm just standing there in my little Easter dress watching, and so they chased at the rooster, and then sort of ran back towards me, and the rooster started chasing them, only this time he didn't stop. He kept coming, and I realized that he was really after me also. So of course they ran real fast, and I realized I was going to have to run too. So I started running also, and as I was running, I actually ran into the barbed wire fence, and of course it cut my Easter dress all to pieces, and it injured my arm, and blood all over me, and I don't know what happened to the rooster, but of course I immediately started just really screaming and crying. And anyway, I want to show you the scar. I think you can see it. Let's see. There it is, see? That was the biggest scar. There were 3 or 4 other scrapes there caused by the barbed wire. And of course there it is. Can you see that? Look at that. Now remember, I guess I was about 7 years old. And anyway, so they ran in the house to get the adults, who had probably maybe just finished eating, or I'm not sure, but they were all in there. And so of course several of them came running out to the yard and kind of grabbed me up and hauled me in the house, and Ernie and Buddy were screaming about the rooster. And so anyway, I was more upset about my dress, my new Easter dress, than I was the blood running down my arm. So they just assumed that the rooster had attacked me. So a couple of my aunts took me back to my grandmother's little sewing area, and they got out the sewing machine. They said, "Oh, we can fix the dress." So I took the dress off, and they fixed my arm and, kind of wiped all the blood off. And sure enough, they sewed the little dress up. There were several little cuts, torn places in the skirt of the dress. So they fixed that. And about that time, my uncle came walking down through the hallway there, and he said, well, where's your gun? Where's your gun? And so they said, well, what are you going to do? He said, oh, I'm going to shoot that rooster. And so I said, well, no, the rooster didn't do this. And they said, oh, yeah, the rooster didn't. I said, no, I ran into the barbed wire fence. The rooster was just chasing me. And so my uncle was like, oh, we're going to have to kill that rooster. He's been chasing the boys anyway. Of course, he didn't realize the boys were teasing the rooster, really. I mean, he was kind of a mean rooster, but if you didn't run at him, he wouldn't chase you. So anyway, that ended that, and they sewed up my little dress and, patched up my arm, and of course I still got the little scar there, but everything was fine, and we went back to Virginia because we were just there for Easter weekend. So my mother got a letter towards the end of that following week and said that my Uncle Haney had killed the rooster. And the reason he did was because they started thinking about the younger grandkids, and the rooster maybe could really injure one of, a little 2 or 3-year-old out in the yard. So anyway, they decided to do away with the rooster. So that's my little rooster story. I hope you enjoyed it. And of course, I've got the scar to prove what happened, okay? So anyway, I was somewhat of a tomboy, but when I was dressed up, I was not a tomboy, and I wasn't really into the rooster chasing, but I kind of got injured from it. So I hope you enjoyed my little story, and I'll be back, and maybe I'll come up with more stories that you maybe don't know. So I'll see you next time.